Class, slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines. Hopefully you know parallel lines look like this. Hopefully you know perpendicular lines have a 90-degree angle. Now, slopes of parallel lines, slopes are the same. If two lines are parallel, the slopes are the same, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But if two lines are parallel, they have the same steepness. If two lines are perpendicular, the slopes are opposite reciprocals. Now, it says opposite reciprocals. I'll talk about that in a second here. But we just need to get those down. Now, opposite means change the sign from positive to negative or negative to positive. Reciprocal means flip the fraction. So if I want two lines to be perpendicular, the slopes have to be opposite reciprocals. If I want them to be parallel, they have the same slope. What that means? Which of these four equations are parallel? Parallel means same slope. Now look at all these. Which is the slope, let's circle it, of this equation? Do you guys remember y equals mx plus b? Isn't m your slope?
2 and 4.
So for this one, isn't 3 your slope? For this one, what's your slope? Well, isn't that negative 3? The x value? Isn't that a negative 3? Here. Wait, is there an x value on this one?
No.
Isn't that kind of like plus 0x?
Yes.
I have no x's. So wouldn't that kind of mean that it's 0? And this one, do I know my slope yet?
Negative.
Do I need to change it to this form? If I minus the 3x over, now isn't that my slope right there? Once I move it over, okay. Now look at these. There's 4 equations. You have these 4 equations. Which of these have the same slope?
2 and 4.
Doesn't this one and this one, don't those have the same slope? Do you see? Negative 3, negative 3. These two would be parallel. They both have the same slope. It's a pretty simple question once you know same or opposite reciprocal. All right, you'll get it. Let's look at this one. Now, let's skip that one for now. Let's look at this one. What's the slope of this one? 2/3. What's the slope of this one?
Negative.
It's the negative 2/3. What's the slope of this one? Wasn't that plus 0x? So that slope is 0. Are any of these opposite reciprocal? Well, are these opposites? Yeah, but are they reciprocals? No. So none of these have perpendicular slopes. But let's change this one and see if it matches one of these. So if I rewrite this one, I'm going to minus the 3x over. Then what do I do next? Divide by 2. Isn't that the slope right there? Okay, I got y equals by itself. Y equals mx plus b. Okay, does this one opposite reciprocal of one of these? Aren't these reciprocals? And is one positive, one negative? Aren't those two? Those are going to be perpendicular. That's how you write perpendicular, upside down, capital T. These two are parallel. Okay. Now, these two are perpendicular, these two are parallel. I want to write a parallel, I need a line parallel to this through this point. What's the slope of this line?
-4.
Isn't m -4? Isn't that my slope? If I want a line that's parallel to this, shouldn't it have that same slope? If it's parallel, shouldn't the slope be the same? If I want to go through this point, isn't this x and this is y? Can you make an equation using m, x, and y? Make an equation of a line? Do you guys remember that? M is -4. What's x? X is -2. And what's y? Is it y1? Remember, y equals mx plus b. Can I plug in y, m, and x? Find b. What's y? Y is 1. What's m? -4. And x? -2. Okay, I want b. What's -4 times -2? 8. How do you solve for b? You minus the 8 over. What did all that mean? Well, isn't this m? Isn't this b? Isn't it y equals -4x minus 7? Is this parallel to this? Are these two parallel? Do they have the same slope? Do they have different y-intercepts? Yeah. Does this graph go through this point? How do you check if this graph goes through that point? Can you plug -2 for x and 1 for y? What's -4 times -2? Isn't it 6? Did I do this right? Okay. When you plug in -2, isn't that 8? Sorry. Is 8 minus 7 1? This equation goes through -2, 1 and has the same slope as that one. Okay, next question. Perpendicular. What's the slope of this line? What would be the slope of one perpendicular to that? Well, don't you flip that? Flip 1/3. What do you get? 3, correct? And then don't you change the sign? Isn't this perpendicular? Do you have a slope? Is this slope perpendicular to this one? Yeah. Second, do you have x? Do you have y? Can you plug x, y, and the slope into this formula? Find b, get an equation. So y equals mx plus b. Y is -4. M is 3. X is also 3. Can we solve that for b? So -4 equals 9 plus b. How do you get b by itself? You minus the 9 over. So b is -13. All that means, that's my slope, that's my b. Is this graph perpendicular to this? Are these perpendiculars? Are the slopes opposite reciprocal? Is -1/3 and 3 opposite and also reciprocal? Yes. Now, this coordinate -13, this graph will go through the point 3, -4.